I'm Marissa Blackwood, and imagine just moved into the neighborhood with your wife, trying to start a new life, and your next-door neighbor frames you for murder. Oh yeah, Timothy Evans and his wife Beryl just living a normal life until they moved into 10 Rillington Place and became next-door neighbors with John Christie. For today, my friends, we'll be discussing the misjustice of Timothy Evans, thanks to the serial killer neighbor, John Christie. Listener's discretion is advised. If you're a fan of horror movies or true crime, or perhaps both like myself, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to check us out on YouTube at All Things Murder. New episodes on Thursdays. John Christie was born in Halifax, Yorkshire on April 8th, 1899. And surprise, surprise, he did not have a good relationship with his father. What serial killer does? His father was very strict and showed little to no emotion towards his kids. He was the sixth of 7 children. Ladies, daily reminder. At the age of 8, John was witness to the open coffin of his grandfather, and he claims that this had a profound effect on him. In school, surprise, John was a loner and wasn't very popular. On April 22nd, 1913, John left school and started working as an assistant projectionist. By the time he reached puberty, he associated sex with death, dominance, violent aggression, rendering him impotent unless he was in complete control. His first attempts at losing his virginity did not go as planned. When do they ever? And people started hearing about his lack of performance, so they started calling him Reggie No Dig and Can't Do It Christie. And you wonder why he became a serial killer. Bullying leads to serial killers. John enlisted in the army as a signalman and was dispatched to France during World War I. He ended up having throat and eye injuries from a mustard gas attack. After he was discharged from the military, he moved back home to Halifax, where he found work at a local post office. He later met and married 22-year-old Ethel Waddington from Sheffield on May 10th of 1920. Their so-called happy marriage did not last long because during the first decade of their marriage, John was convicted of several crimes. His first conviction was stealing mail from his job at the post office, which got him 3 months in jail. He then went to jail for theft, assaulting a prostitute, and even stealing a car from a priest. You stole a car from a priest. Bro, calm down. Along his several visits with jail numerous times, it also did not help the fact that when Ethel would go visit her family from time to time, John would play with some local prostitutes. After his release in November of 1933, the couple reconciled, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, babe, won't do it again." "Okay, John, I forgive you." It's just not going to work out the way you want it to, Ethel. John did not stop from continuing to seek out sex workers to relieve his increasingly violent sexual urges, which included necrophilia. Necrophilia? Ugh, gross. 10 Rillington Place. In December of 1938, John and Ethel moved into a ground floor apartment of 10 Rillington Place in Ladbroke Grove, neighborhood of Notting Hill. Now, this apartment, they were on the ground floor and there was like 2 more above them. During the outbreak of World War II, John did get a job as a police constable in the War Reserve Police. Fantastic. We just gave power to a psychopath. Power with resources. The murders. On August 24th, 1943, Ethel went to go visit her family, and John was lonely, bored, horny. So he met a 21-year-old sex worker, Ruth Furist, and brought her home. Like, "Hey, girl, want to come back to my place?" After engaging in some sexual activities, he impulsively strangled her with a rope, then put her body underneath the floorboards in his living room before burying her in the garden the next day. Why the floorboards? That was the worst place to hide. Soon after the murder, at the end of 1943, John resigned as his police constable and got a job as a clerk at a radio factory, where there he met his second victim, Muriel Eady. On October 7th of 1944, John invited Muriel back to his house with promise of a special mixture that he could cure her bronchitis. Muriel, are you coughing? Man, that sucks. I got this cure at my house. You want to come over? Like, bro, no. She was to inhale this concoction from a jar with a tube in it, but John tricked her into inhaling coal gas fumes, which then made her unconscious. While she was unconscious, John proceeded to sexually assault her, and then he grabs a stocking and then strangled her. And then he buried her in the garden alongside his first victim. In April of 1948, Timothy Evans and his wife Beryl moved into the top floor flat of 10 Rillington Place. Oh great, they're right above John. In October, Beryl gave birth to their daughter Geraldine. Shortly after Geraldine was born, Beryl found herself pregnant again. This is why I give you the daily reminder. She had a baby and boom, pregnant again. Beryl feared that they couldn't afford another baby, so they went and turned to John, for he promised that he could help them abort the baby. Much like now, abortion was illegal. So John decided to give Beryl his special mixture, and once Beryl was unconscious, he then strangled and then sexually assaulted her post-mortem. When Timothy came home that night, John told him that the abortion went wrong and that Beryl died. So again, abortion was illegal, so John convinced Timothy, like, you should probably get out of town for a couple days, so he could hide the body and then leave Geraldine in his care. I don't know about you guys, but you just told me my wife's abortion went wrong and now she's dead, and you want me to leave my baby with you? I don't think so. No. So it was later said that Timothy then went to return to the flat several times and, asked about his kid, but John refused to let him see her. Excuse me, sir, this is my child. What do you mean you're not going to let me see my kid? So Timothy then went to the police and confessed that he killed his wife and disposed her body underneath a nearby drain. But when the police searched the area, they didn't find anything. Like, dude, why would you lie about that? When he was re-questioned, Timothy said, okay, flip the script. It was John, and he offered to provide them an abortion for Beryl, and when he returned home from work on November 8th, he was told that she was dead. He said that John then disposed of the body and then made arrangements for some people to look after Geraldine while he was laying low. Like, I entrusted this guy with my baby. Can you believe that? The second confession spurred the police to inspect the property around the complex. They did find the bodies of both Beryl and Geraldine Evans wrapped in a tablecloth in a wash house behind 10 Rillington Place. It was determined that they both had been strangled to death. Timothy didn't even know his daughter was dead until the police told him about the body. God, poor Timothy. On January 11th, 1950, Timothy was then put to trial for the murder of his daughter. Get this, John Christie was a key witness for the prosecution, and of course denied all the claims from Timothy. Despite his lengthy criminal history, he was not considered a suspect. Oh no, that's what happened when you give a crazy guy power. They get away with things. Timothy Evans was found guilty and unfortunately was hanged on March 9th, 1950 for a crime he did not commit. During Timothy's trial, John was fired from the Post Office Savings Bank, where he had worked for the last 4 years, since he did not disclose his criminal history. Karma. On December 14th, 1952, when Ethel was asleep, sound asleep, John strangled her in bed. Then when she was dead, he hid her body under the floorboards. Serial Killer 101. Don't hide bodies under floorboards. It's dumb. They stink. Between January 19th and March 6th of 1953, John killed 3 more women that he invited back to his place. The arrest. John moved out of 10 Rillington Place on March 20th of 1953. Of course, he's going to rent out his place. He's no longer living there. And when the new tenants moved in, they noticed a very strong smell coming from their house. Turns out there were dead bodies behind the wallpaper of the 3 sex workers that he killed. I'm gonna say I want a refund. Yeah. Wasn't long before police tracked down who lived there previously, and on March 31st, John Christie was arrested. During interrogation, John confessed to the murders of the women in the kitchen, obviously, as well as his wife. On April 27th, 1953, he did confess that he was the one who murdered Beryl Evans, but denied killing Geraldine. He's like, yeah, Mom, for sure, I did her. Baby, I don't do kids. No, I did not kill the baby. John Christie's trial began on June 21st, 1953, in the same court where Timothy Evans had been tried. He was on trial solely for the murder of his wife. John pleaded insanity and claimed to have no memory of the events. Oh, God. Sorry, what, Your Honor? I killed how many women? My wife? What happened? You know what happened. The jury rejected the plea and after 22 minutes, found him guilty of murdering his wife. John Christie was executed on July 15th, 1953, by the same man who executed Timothy Evans. Karma. Fortunately, the public and the press didn't let his confession of Beryl Evans' murder go, and in 1966, after 2 official inquiries, Timothy Evans received a royal pardon. The conviction of Timothy Evans is now recognized to have been one of the most notorious, if not the most notorious, miscarriages of justice. And that, dear friends, the tale of John Christie and 10 Rillington Place. Rest in peace to all of the victims. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm Marissa Blackwood, and don't forget to tune in next week for a new All Things Murder, if you dare.